welcome to our Migration Center webinar today with the topic Quick and Convenient Content Migration to Alfresco. And today we have a combined webinar with Alfresco, and we are happy to have you here. Before we start, let's go to one slide of housekeeping. All attendees are muted during the whole webinar session today. Should any questions or remarks occur, they can be entered into the GoToWebinar questions or chat panel, which is per default on your right-hand side. I will collect the questions and remarks, and we will take care of them after the main presentation in our Q&A session. Please also note that this webinar is being recorded, and after it is processed, we will share it with you after the session. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Our speaker today, we are happy to welcome an external speaker, Mr. Volker Nübel, Senior Account Executive with Alfresco. He is going to take the first part of this slideshow, a short introduction into Alfresco, the ECM system. And after that, my colleague, Mike Uhlenberg, our product pre-sales consultant, will take over, and he will take you into a slideshow about Migration Center, the main product this webinar is about, and will then show you a live demo with a migration to Alfresco. That's it from my side so far. With this, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Nübel.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark. So yeah, it's a great pleasure. Thank you, FME, for inviting me to this webinar. It's a great pleasure. So a little bit about my background. So I was in my former career 10 years with FileNet and IBM. So I made a lot of experience with the, let's say, legacy systems in the market, and thought that the ECM market to some extent would be saturated. But I'm today with Alfresco because this is clearly not the case. A lot of the customers in the market with the, let's say, old heavyweights ECM systems are contacting Alfresco because they are looking for more agility and other requirements and capabilities, which I'm happy to share with you in a few minutes. And related to this, we are very happy to work very closely together with FME regarding migration requirements. So nearly every day we are in discussion with our customers regarding the digital transformation journey. So most of them already passed the phase where they put their content into digital formats. With the next step of involvement, they also go into the digital business by leveraging process technologies and take advantage of the digitized content. But now, let's say the next phase of agility regarding the digital transformation is a huge challenge, but it would mean that they really have with this the capability to radically improve the performance of their business. So why is it so difficult? So why is it such a challenge rapidly delivering applications that on one side automate processes, manage content, and govern information? So this is related in a lot of the cases to proprietary monolithic systems, and this has the impact of infrequent vendor updates. So it's very difficult to extend the applications. Very often you need special skills for enhancements and new developments, and the upgrades are very time intensive and mostly with high costs. Also, in the past, there was the approach of one size fits all, but this leads to too many features in, let's say, the user interface for the users. It doesn't fit to the way they want to work and make it easy. And also there are low adoption rates regarding these kind of solutions. This leads to workarounds from the employees and from a hosting perspective, in the past, most of the systems were optimized for on-premise. But this has the challenge that if you have to scale and these kind of requirements need a huge amount of planning. On the other hand, over provisioning is very cost intensive, and extending beyond the firewall is also very challenging. That's why we are asking, what if you could innovate at the speed of open? So coming from the community, there are coming a lot of contributions, new features, new services. It's easy to integrate and extend with existing ONs. Very positive and important in these days is the feedback from our customers that there are the sets of skills for the application development. So with a new technology, let's say the students from the university, they have Java in their blood. So it is much easier to get these skills, and there are lower costs of ownership. Also, very important, why are we in these kind of daily discussions rapidly build fit to purpose solutions? So this means from a user interface perspective, the users are getting exactly what they need to do their job. Yeah, just as much as needed. So it's tailored to their role, and adoption is very easy by choice. It can be done with a few iterations and easy to adopt. So there is no need to look elsewhere. From a hosting perspective, a lot of the customers are going to take advantage of cloud installations. They are bringing capacity into the cloud. Because of this, they have the capability, they have a larger electricity, which means their business can breathe. If they need more power, it's very easy. They can get it on demand. So the availability is there to grow or also to reduce. There is a high level of security, and infrastructure as a code is available. So this means, for example, Alfresco is offering with a very close development with AWS, a quick starter service for content services or for process services. This means you as a customer are able to use after 30 or 45 minutes an instance for production ready to use. So Gartner is also looking at this, so the differentiation and value delivering through the development of IT solutions. If you look at the left side, you can see that a customer problem is the starting point, and in this phase of the design thinking, you have to define and ideate what the challenge of the customer is. And in the middle, you can see there is a very lean way of developing this solution. So you're starting with a try period, learn, and with a rapid build and iterate phase. It means you can adopt new things and new requirement and measure the result of this solution. So this is a circle, and it is very agile and easy to adapt regarding the requirements. And because of this, the Alfresco goal is to help transform our customers. With other words, just building the application, rapid deployment, and iterate it with a change of, let's say, days and weeks instead of months and years. And to summarize, so we believe that we are dedicated to innovation and partnering with our customers to help you gain a competitive edge and win. The digital business platform combines process, content, and governance services to help you build innovate solutions that establish business differentiation. So a short overview regarding the business platform. The three main components are content services and process services as modules. So you can start with the one or the other, but you can take it also as integrated solution and business platform. So the governance services are integrated and control your information and data in both areas from a content perspective and also during the processes. So you have open APIs built on industry standards, so open source code. There are integrations, existing standard integrations for sure, like into core systems like SAP or Salesforce, but it is also very easy for you or with your partners building new integrations into new systems and create new extensions. On top of this, there is an application development framework, which makes it easy to develop exactly the level of front end you need for your employees, customers, or partners. And as another value add, there is also business intelligence and analytics components. And regarding the deployment, you can choose if you want to use it on premise, bring it into the cloud, or even a hybrid model. And for sure, you can also ask for managed services. These are, here you see the reflection of the core systems and your availability for building new components and deploy them in the different kind of systems. Just sharing two of, so we got in the last fiscal year a large number of new customers, new topics, a very positive development which is going on. As I said, there are a lot of large customers bringing their content into the cloud. In this case, it's an integration with Amazon Web Services. And there it was important, so they really screened the market, and the feedback from the CIO from Liberty Mutual Specialty was that she said Alfresco was the only ECM solution that absolutely met our requirements for cloud native capabilities. And they are now able, if there are new requirements coming from the business, to set up a new instance with just in 30 minutes, they are ready to work. And they calculated for the next 5 years savings for more than $21 million. Another example from the industry area, McDermott, a large company, is a leading provider of integrated engineering, procurement, construction, and installation services for upstream field development worldwide. And there it was important to have this integration, or let's say the right content at the right time in the process. So the right blueprints and schematics automatically in the workflow. And this led to the result that implementing the digital platform on AWS and support with these kind of integrations to get the design from design to production in 60 days. So there are a lot of other examples, and a lot of these customers are asking for migrating their existing content into the new system, and that's where we are exactly glad working together hand in hand with FME. So with this, I'm happy for questions from your side, and we are like to share more details with you, and I like to hand over.
All right, yes, thank you very much, Mr. Nübel. That was very great insights, especially in the project. Yeah, so yeah, especially what I just said, Alfresco maybe is a really interesting choice of a platform. So and also with the cloud topic. So yeah, so now we're talking about the migration to Alfresco, or with other words, the enablement of this platform, or in general of platforms, right? With Migration Center, you have a tool on your side which makes you really able to enable the new platform, the new application, and even migrate documents from a legacy system to a new one, but also to migrate specific applications or file shares for specific departments on here and there. So many companies, and I think also yours, have many silos of documents and information, and Migration Center really helps you in different use cases to really bring the data into the right system where it's saved with legal conditions and all the other things around a DMS. So Migration really supports migrations, and in that sense, consolidation, also application extension, decommissioning, like also for archiving, right? Replacement, and of course others, also in-place upgrades and so on. So normally you start when you maybe start with a new system, you buy that system and you have like a problem, how to get the data into the new system, and here's where the Migration Center comes into play. But also later on, you have data here and data there, maybe in a legacy database, you may use the Migration Center again to further extend the application. Yeah, what are the reasons for Migration Center? Of course, it's in 100% out of the box content migration platforms. That means we really often, like 80% of the times, we sell the product to a customer or clients, and they use the product as it is. So it is not a tool, not a scripting platform or a framework. So in other words, you don't need to do any programming or any scripting or any configuration within files or anything like that. You only use one client, and this client can be used to configure the complete migration from A to Z with different platforms and so on. Additionally, very interesting is you may have no downtime, so that is really a crucial topic within migration projects. So the question is always, can we keep the system up and running and the users still working on it? And also, especially with, can users still create new documents, and can they change documents, and can they, as they usually do, work on the system? And with Migration Center, that's a real USP. We really support delta scanning or delta migration, and that means you can really come down to a very, very, very small delta window, what we call basically no business downtimes. Additionally, it is fit for regulated systems. You see some customers here on the right-hand side, especially that is proven in the pharmaceutical environment. So all of the pharma customers really have high rules and regulations. And of course, the migration tool also needs to fulfill these requirements, not only the platform. Yeah, besides that, we have a global service presence. We, of course, we like and love to work with partners. Today we are presenting together with Alfresco. We are partnering with Alfresco for years. I don't know how long, but we also have the Alfresco adapter, the scanner, and the importer and Migration Center very, very long time. So that's nothing new here. But we are really proud of the partnerships we have, and as I said, global service presence. Yeah, how does the solution look like? Or with other words, here is a diagram of the Migration Center. Migration Center, as a basic, consists of 3 components. You have the client, it's a Windows client, and this client is the only contact point you need to configure the whole migration, including the transformation, including scanning and importing and auditing and everything else, right? Then we have a database, which is a core component. So this is really like you have one core database for the whole structure. The Windows client and also the job server can be installed as many times, but the database is usually you have one instance of the database. You can have several instances, but this instance, one instance, is really like the brain, the control part of the Migration Center. And then you have the job server, and the job server is really the processing unit. So the job server really exports documents from a platform into Migration Center, basically what we call scan, and then a job server also with an importer. The importer will get the data from Migration Center, the transformed data, and import the data and documents into the platform, for example, as Alfresco, of course. So today I really want to point out that we support Alfresco a long time, right, as a target and as a source, but in this case, as a source in case you want to upgrade your reclassify objects and attributes and so on. But in general, what I want to say is really we support many source systems into an Alfresco and also in Alfresco cloud. So that's very important, because you may start with, for example, replacing Documentum with Alfresco, and you choose to pass Documentum to Alfresco with Migration Center. But at a later time, you see, oh, all right, we have also Lotus Notes or IBM Notes here, and we want to replace it And then you may think, oh, all right, we have the migration center, so we can easily do that and also bring that data into the Alfresco, right? And also file shares, database and XML. I mean, that's out of the question. I'm sure you will have those silos somewhere where you have some files left on the file share, which should be migrated, but you didn't have the time so far to do that, right? Yeah, in general, we have the phases on the top here. We have what we say, like we divided it into 6 phases: as, organize, transform, validate, correct, and import. And that basically symbolize that you can do the whole migration with the migration center. It supports you from the scanning, from the analyzing of the source data and source documents. Of course, in what I will talk about later is organize them into groups, into scope of documents, put individual transform scope of documents, right? And then validate, correct, and do the import. And even if you have errors at the import time, then like after the import, go to the correction phase, correct like the mistake, or maybe correct the target system and so on, and then import it. So with other words, from A to I, so to speak, the migration center is there to support you in the whole process. Outstanding capabilities, what we say really makes the migration center very strong in the market. Just as an overview, I will go into detail for some of them, but not for them all. So, but we are, in general, we are really keen on getting the best performance out of the migration, right? Because everyone really, I didn't ever met a project where the question was not arised that how fast is the migration center and so on. So with other words, of course, it depends on many factors, but we are already always keen on the best performance approach. That's in our development and in the conception phase and everywhere. So that's really the high focus. And of course, it enables us to manage large data volumes. And through the central migration database, we have everything in one place, right? Once you scan the system, you have the data, the attributes, and inside the migration center database and the content on a file share. It's like a snapshot. And from that point on, you will never lose that information, right? With migration center, for example, or when you go come from Documentum and go to an Alfresco system, you need a transformation in the middle. That's for sure. You need to meet the object type definitions and all the limitations and all the restructuring and whatever you want to do. But the beauty here is that you never lose the original information, right? If 2 years later someone asks, like, what happened with my data, you can still show, and also the public organizations, whoever asked for that, you can show that this is the source data, this was the transformation, and this is the data which have been imported into Alfresco. So that's really important for the audit topics and everything, right? And then I want here to speak about the open connectivity architecture, because I think that's really important. I mean, we always say we are 100% out of the box product, and that's not a lie, that's for sure. But of course, many migration projects needs special things here and there. So the requirements, not in the majority of the project, but in like maybe 10%. The project really needs special requirements, or has special requirements and needs special features or functions within an adapter, right, or within a migration center. So that is always what we also want to point out, that you can really adapt the existing code, like existing adapters, and also together with us or together with partners, create new adapters or change like more or less fundamentally things where the migration center framework, so to speak, is really there and doesn't need to be changed. So you change only parts in specific detailed parts, so you don't need to test the whole thing again and again and again, right? Yeah, just some likes of the features in more detail. And also this diagram here shows really how you set up the system in your environment. For example, this is basically how about the scalability of the migration center. I already told you that you have one migration center database as the core instance down there, and then you have several clients on top maybe. Yeah, and then we have the processing units, our horse in the stall, so to speak, migration center job server. And here's an example to scan several source systems as an example, and you can use 3 job servers, for example, and each job server can run many jobs scans in parallel. So that is really the scalable unit. So if it's too slow for you, you just add a job server and to the system and let it run and scan the documents as well. Or on the right-hand side, the same thing counts for the importers. And at the end of the day, the bottleneck is really the corresponding source end, or most of the times it's the target platform. So it really, you can imagine, such a migration really depends on many factors, on the system, on the network speed, on the I/O rate, of the HDDs, of whatever technical components, and also other things. But usually, I mean, in 99% of the projects I have been in, we could really reach the maximum performance to the corresponding target system. Yeah, then here we have the set by set processing. So I think that's important, because that really differs, or migration center really differs here to the ETL tools, so like extract, transform, load tools, right? We also sometimes call migration center advanced ETL tool, but it's more than an ETL tool. So, and this set by set processing here is, what it means is, maybe you scan 1 million documents in Documentum or in the source or whatever, and you have scanned every single and each attribute, right? You have all the attributes, all the documents, but you don't want to do a big bang approach with the migration center. And you may also have priorities, for example, in terms of time or of importance and so on. So the migration center really enables you to do that set by set processing. So that means you can either scan 1 million documents, put it in the migration center, and then filter your documents upon certain criteria, which is most of the times the attributes. You can really set up like advanced filter expressions and really get a tiny little bit out of the whole stack. Like you say, okay, document type, it's easy. So I take DM document as an example and put them into that mixset and put transformation rules on that mixset, especially for DM document, right? But you can also group that, for example, by department or by several departments, and you can also do that by format, by object type, by document format, and whatever. So you can basically really use every tiny bit information from the scan to really organize your migration and build migration sets and group the whole migration, not only by type, like also by time, right? It's absolutely up to you to organize the whole migration. And that's the beauty in Migration Center, because you can really do that on a really detailed level. And then some words to our very flexible transformation engine. So I usually show that example here because it makes it really obvious. So Migration Center, it has to be really strong in the transformation segment, right? Because you can imagine we support file system, we support Outlook from Microsoft, we support IBM Notes, and we support Documentum, and they are all, I mean, same thing, but they differ really different in terms of object types, attributes, and values, and maybe also formats and everything, right? So that's an example here on the slide where we have a folder in the file system. This folder is quite good. I mean, this is like tech research, technology scope, and so on and so on. And down there we have the document name on the left-hand side and some system properties of the file system on the right-hand side. So yeah, if you follow the arrows, you see what we do with our transformation engine, what we do like with less information, or with only a few information, you can really create a new object type definition, which really makes sense, which you see in the middle here in red. So when you follow it, let's do an example. For example, with our functions within the transformation rules, we say, okay, take the first folder or the root folder basically, and do through a mapping, put it into object type. And only because we have tech research, we can say research document, right? Then you can extract the DE with special functions, like take everything before the first hyphen, put that into language, and then you may also say everything between the two hyphens are the title, and everything after the hyphen could be another attribute, like source here. Okay, that's all about from my side for the presentation. I try to keep it short to also show you some, I mean, the practical real life demonstration of Migration Center. We have like 20 minutes left, 25. So we also want to have some time for the question and answer session. So I will keep it quite short. All right, I share the demo machine, right? Yes. Okay, what I'm going to show you is a very simple example from for a migration from Documentum to Alfresco. So let's open first the Alfresco here, first the source system here maybe. So what I will do is I will scan a folder in Documentum like this webinar bank customer example. And it is just a folder structure with different object types and different attributes. And yeah, like a folder structure like this. So we have a type of documents here and then a subtype maybe type, and we have different object types here, right? So to scan that, I simply copy the path here basically. All right, then we go to the migration center, and now to collect this information, I have already opened the migration center. I'm connected to the migration center database instance, and we see these scanners here. I already prepared the Documentum scanner, not very special, so I give it a name, an adapter type Documentum, and a job server. And then what I did is I really passed just the folder path here, and I mentioned the document types we want to scan in there, right? So we have more parameters here, of course, but they are really related to the specific platform features. And of course, we can also export versions and renditions and as a folder structure, annotations, maybe comments and relations. And we cannot skip the content at this point. Exactly. The last thing you enter here is basically as the export location, which should be a file share in the network, which is used to store the exported documents on a temporary base. Okay, all set up. So once it's saved, you can click on run, enter description and give it a go. And then you click on history, maybe to see the scan happening. All right, so and this is now done in the background, right? I can close the migration center client. This is absolutely run in the background. The job server is doing that. So the communication is between job server, source system, and the migration center database. The client is only there to view all these things, right? And also to configure the whole migration, as I said. Okay, so we have scanned 522 objects. We can have a look at the objects at this point very quickly. So this is like the analyze phase, right? We have scanned the documents and we exported the content on a file share and we collected the metadata in the database, and that's what we see here. So we see all the metadata from our scan, like some custom attributes, account number, but more or less system or Documentum default attributes. Of course, we have a name and so on and so on and so on. So at this point, and any point when you see such a grid in Migration Center, you can always show or hide columns for your convenience, and also like create a new view to export that view to a CSV file, and then maybe put it into an Excel file, and you can use it to communicate the results or the analysis with the key users and departments, right? So you may say, okay, this is what I like scan from your folder, for example. I have those attributes and this and that, and after that you will need a mapping, so you can use that here, that tool, like as a tool inside or within the communication with the important or key users, right, for the migration. Okay, but now we have scanned the data, so that means we created a snapshot from the Documentum system, so basically from that folder or cabinet. So we have all the documents on the file share and we have the metadata in Migration Center. Okay, the next step then is to transform the metadata into Alfresco specific object types. Let me close all the windows. And to do that, actually, you create a migration set. So I already prepared that one here. We have the webinar Documentum to Alfresco set. And here its only importance is like you have to choose the right path. Right? When you come from Documentum and you want to go to Alfresco, it's obvious you choose Documentum to Alfresco. If you would have another source now, maybe file system, for example, you will create a new mixset and there you choose file system to Alfresco, right? You can easily copy transformation rules from one, which I show you in a second, from one mixset to another, so that's not really a problem. But it's important to know that you have one mixset to related to the source and target path, basically. but that's fine. We choose Documentum to Alfresco. If I go to file scan selection now, I see only file scans from Documentum, right? So that really helps you to keep the overview and not to like select the wrong scan here. So you can only select the document scans, you see the time and everything. And yeah, okay, we say we assign it to the mixed and we save it. Additionally to that, and that is more or less related to the slide where I show you the set by set processing. Now you can say I will keep or I want to keep the 522 objects, or you can go ahead and exclude objects by values. As an example, here you see all the attribute key names distinctly, and on the right-hand side you see distinct values of those attributes, right? Let's check object name, for example. We have all the different objects name in here. You see we copied the data because we don't have 522 here. This is only demo data, but you can easily, for example, say, let's have an example with the content size, and maybe you have zero file size content in here. You just say, exclude all the documents which only have 6 kilobytes in their full content size, right? As an example. You can also, exclude by object type, exclude by department, exclude by, principally everything. Additionally to that, like simple distinctive exclusion, you can also use advanced filters, and here you can really do really everything, like pick any source attribute, pick any kind of operator, and then connect those queries with and or. So you can really create a list of where conditions here to exclude objects out of that mixed. And that's especially interesting if you do like a prioritized migration, where you say, okay, I migrate, or not a prioritized, also in an archive migration makes sense, so that you say, I migrate all documents which have been modified the last 2 years at first, and they go into the Alfresco. And maybe I have other content which is really old, and you say, okay, all documents which are older than 20 years, you exclude them out of the mixed and put them into another mixed, for example, for an archive migration. Or you migrate those data into Alfresco as well, but at a later point in time, right? So you're totally flexible with that, but it really helps you to organize all the whole migration in all the different mixeds or units. Okay, let's say we are satisfied with that. So select the objects here, and now you see I only have 33 objects left. So we excluded all the objects with a 6 kilobyte size in the content. Okay, the next step is then you create the transformation. And at this point in this demo, I will not go into detail here. So I prepared that already. But what you usually do with Migration Center, you take the source attributes, and you also have the target attributes entered previously in the Migration Center. With other words, the object type definition of Alfresco, right? Or the content types. And then you can do, you have the rules here, and you have all these functions here, and these functions are there to manipulate the attribute values. And those functions can be combined in an order here, and they can relate to each other. So with other words, with those functions, I bet you will definitely get the result you really need for an attribute or several attributes. With that, you can merge values, you can split string, you can substring, you can replace strings. You can also map values, right? That's very important. Map users, for example, map ACL objects, or map security in general, or permissions. And so on and so on. So you can really do everything with that. So the easiest type here, and I already did that, is a 1-by-1 thing. So you have a get value functions with the source attributes. So with other words, those document attributes will be more or less associated 1-by-1 to the Alfresco target system. Some words for the rules for system attributes here. So that's important, like this system attributes, because the importer needs to have values in there, because systematically or technically you cannot create a document or a node in Alfresco if you don't have those information, right? So that's easily the folder path, the types and aspects you want to use in Alfresco, and also permissions if you want to set specific permissions here. The content location is more or less system attribute for Migration Center, so that's where the content is really exported to. All right, so let me save that one. So next step would be to apply the transformation. And that's actually applying the transformation here right now. So what the rules you just saw. And now if you have a look to the processed objects, it will not look very different because we do a one-by-one mapping more or less, right? So you still see the old values here you just created with the transformation rules. Yeah, if you need to change something, and that's also the beauty of Migration Center, just to like have spoken about that. If you need to change an object value here, an attribute value, that's like very easy. So that really differs us from the XML or config script file ETL approach tools, right? So you don't need to do any configuration now. To change something very quickly, I show you. You go back into the transformation rules after the transformation, and then you maybe change owner name very quickly. And here, instead of getting the source attribute administrator, I just put a user value in here. Just as an example, I put admin directly in here. I just want to show you how easily and quickly you change the transformation all over. So reset the transformation, apply the change transformation rules, and then, yeah, it is there, right? Then you have admin. So you play around with that resetting and transformation and the rules until you really have your desired data, right? So let's say, okay, this data is really cool. We need that meets all the requirements. The next step would is the apply the validation. And you see the document jump now from transformed to validated. And our next step is to get them into the imported state. So now the validation is done against the Alfresco, not technically directly against the Alfresco platform, but against like the Alfresco object or content type definitions, right? And that's one thing you have to have to remember. You have to insert those information from Alfresco. Like you can use scripts to export all the information into a CSV or XML file about your object type and content type definitions in Alfresco. Then you need to enter those information into the migration center, and then you can do the migration, the validation basically, or both. Just quickly shown here, like we have, yeah, let's take the aspect CM author. So we have a type here, a length minimum and length maximum, and maybe if it's a repeating attribute or if that attribute is mandatory, right? And just very important to say, this validation step really saves you time, because after these objects got validated, you can really be sure that that those objects will fit into the target system, right? You don't need to test or stress the target platform and try things and try that and here and there. You simply do that in the migration center, in the database layer, and that's what we call a little bit simulation, so that if you have like, for example, 333 objects validated, you can be very sure that they fit into the Alfresco object type model and so on. All right, let's dig into that. So we have 333 objects, and now we go to the importers, and here it's very similar to the scanner. I choose that validated mixed, and I choose some credentials, the target site I want to go in, and yeah, the auto create folders parameter. All right, let it run. I hope I did not like import those objects previously, because then we would not see them directly. Let's check in the Alfresco system, because I tested, of course, I tested the migration already. But yeah, what you see is we basically, let's have a look to the source. We have this structure, right, with the customers and so on, and we created that structure here in Alfresco with all the same folders, right? It's a one-by-one mapping and migration. So we created the complete same structure also in Alfresco under our document library in a subsite. So, but you can imagine, or as I said, you can really restructure the whole thing. You can change any kind of information, attributes, object type information, and so on. So that's completely free. And yeah, in migration in Alfresco, actually, our adapter is running inside Alfresco, and that's why it's really, really fast. So you can really get many, many documents over to Alfresco in that migration. Actually, I think it will say that we, yeah, okay, I did a mistake actually with the previous scan already, but that's not a problem for the demo here. I mean, I think you can trust me when I say this works normally. I tried it before, and that's why we see the structure here already, right? I'm sorry for that mistake. It was my mistake. All right, but yeah, long story short, the Migration Center is really a really good tool to really quick and convenient and easy migrate documents from a source system, for example, Documentum, but also from FileShare, from Outlook, or from SharePoint into the Alfresco environment, as an example. So that's very straightforward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nübel. Thank you, Mike, for this great presentation and those insights. I just want to round up this webinar with to point out our website, which is migration-center.com, and on there you can test the Just Seen software in its full capability for 14 days free. You just have to fill out a form, and one of our consultants is getting back at you as soon as possible. You can also find more in-depth information about Migration Center. For example, success stories, as you have just seen from Mr. Nübel with Alfresco. We have those too, of course. You can see our past webinar recordings. You can see our product details, our capabilities in detail. You can also get insights into our service portfolio. So if you need knowledge, if you need manpower to do a migration, we offer that too in form of migration services. And just brand new, we implemented a content migration block in which our Migration Center experts publish technical, more or less technical blog posts about the content migration topic. So we're looking forward to see you there and hop by and get some insights on that. All right, next up should be the Q&A session. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them now. You can still enter them into the chat panel, into the questions panel, it doesn't matter. And let's see what we have got so far. Yeah, we have got one question from the registration process. I think I'm just gonna read it out, and you, Mr. Nübel, or Mike, depending on who sees fit, just answers it.
Sure.
All right. Do you have experience in many migrations to the Alfresco system?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, actually, I mean, I think it's related to maybe the last days, I mean, months or business year. So yeah, without what we do have experience with projects. I mean, we ourselves, FME, did like 3 to 4 projects ourselves. That's very rare normally, right? We sell the Migration Center and they do the migration. But we already, I mean, we have 4 projects done ourselves, and we have, I mean, I don't know, sold the adapter plenty of times. Like, I don't know, I must lie to say an exact number, but I don't know, Mr. Nübel, if the interest in Alfresco and migrations to Alfresco is increasing in the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's absolutely increasing, and the colleagues not in Europe, but outside of Europe, they are involved in very, very large migrations. So this means huge companies, the largest, and there we have situations where they are migrating from FileNet to Alfresco, from IBM to Alfresco, from Documentum to Alfresco. So there are a lot of, let's say, reorganizations in the IT infrastructure. And because of this, the things are getting more and more. And I think especially because of these secure tools like the Migration Center. Also, for example, also in the process area, there are a lot of, let's say, Lotus Notes applications, and there it's not only content, but also in the process area, they are migrating to Alfresco process services.
Yeah, interesting, sure. Yeah, definitely. I see also the restructuring of the platform systems, especially in the topic of clouds, right? I mean, we are only at the start, and I think that we will, the interest will increase over time more and more and more still. Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks to both of you for answering this question. It seems that there are no questions so far. if you got any further inquiries after the webinar, just don't hesitate and direct them to Mike, or in this case, of course, to Mr. Nübel as well. His email address is Volker with a V .Nübel UE for the B at alfresco.com. And yeah, just write us and we'll make sure to answer your question to your satisfaction, of course.
Yes, sure. Maybe you can show the first slide where we have the speakers on, just to see the contact details at this point.
Yeah, let's do this.
If I don't interrupt
Yes,
everything.
I'm just going back.
I just go back to the beginning. Yeah, in the meanwhile, if you have any other questions right now, feel free, but as Mark said, you're always welcome. So if you have any questions later regarding Alfresco or Migration Center or both, you can contact us via these email addresses here.
Yeah, now you can see Mr. Nübel's email address on the screen as well. So well, we will process this webinar and we will upload the recording and spread it amongst our network, and I guess at Alfresco's network as well. So sure. You can take a look at it at any time soon. And yeah, I think that brings us to the end of the final section. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance, especially you, Mr. Nübel. Thank you for being here and presenting. And yeah, that's it from our side, I guess.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Also, thanks from my side. Also, thanks very much to Volker Nübel and Alfresco, the also marketing department, also all involved. Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you out there for watching. And see you in the next session.
All right, everybody, take care and bye-bye. We hope to see you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.